Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Into the Valley, a Phoenix Suns podcast. I am Ethan Shutt, joined, as always, by my brother Ryan and our man Philip Russell. And gentlemen, we have it's a bit of an odd one. For the first time, we don't even have to allude to our audio listeners. This is a video-only podcast. And Philip, do you mind telling the folks why we might be having a weird little one-off video episode?
Because you're viewing this on onlyfans.com/sunsbasketball.
Oh, Philip, that's literally the worst thing you can say before making an announcement like this. Ryan, Philip has just lost talking privileges for at least 30 seconds. Ryan, do you know why we might not be posting the audio file this week?
Does it have something to do with making a move, perhaps?
It does have to do with making a move, Ryan. That was the answer I was looking for, Philip. We are super pumped and excited to announce, which this is still super duper weird as I say this sitting here.
And if you're listening on YouTube, it's a secret between just us and you, okay?
That's true. This is going to be YouTube only this week. So for our YouTube folks, this is just for you. But no, the Into the Valley of Phoenix Suns podcast will be joining the Bright Side Podcast Network, which is nuts. Dave King, who has been on the grind for a while, man. The guy has been in covering the Suns and Suns media for a bit, has kindly reached out to us and asked if we'd be interested in joining them. And we are pumped. The three of us were all really excited about it. One, just the potential for reaching new Suns fans is great. I told the guys, it's kind of funny. Growing up in Bowling Green, Kentucky, as a Suns fan, there was not a lot of Suns media to consume, especially in the pre what Twitter is nowadays. So I remember in my sleeping in my twin bed back in, I would say early high school, maybe late middle school, listening to Dave and Espo and Tim, I believe, who I think started the original podcast that Dave is still running with now and having great success with. And so to have our own Suns podcast tied to that network is nutty. It's just kind crazy.
Full circle, full circle.
It's super nuts, man. I mean, I was listening to him and their group on my iTouch as I was going to bed, trying to keep up with Suns basketball. And it wasn't even always great Suns basketball. As a guy who was watching the 19 and 21 win seasons, it was just nice to hear someone else talk about the thing that I loved, even if they were a dumpster fire. So yeah, super cool. We've got a meeting with Dave soon, and hopefully we'll have a clearer picture of what that may look like. What you got, Philip?
Just to clarify, he was saying the Suns were the dumpster fire, not Dave and the content they were putting out. I just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Yes,
no problem.
The Suns were the dumpster fire. The media was on point. But so anyway, because of that, we are currently migrating our audio files over to a new hosting site. I'm not going to get into all the really boring nonsense, but hopefully starting next week, our podcast will be published through the audio platform, Spotify, Apple, all those, through the Bright Side Network. So we will be one of the podcasts that will be coming out through there. So if you are watching and you do get some of our podcasts through audio, make sure to subscribe to them. We'll start adding some links to our YouTube videos once we get those as well, just so you know where to find us. And we'll be having something come out on Twitter pretty soon to kind of explain everything. But anyway, that explains the video only, which means we don't even have to pretend like if we do funny things, we don't have to be like, aha, Ryan, for those listening, that is a cool background. Nope. If you're here, you see it.
I could take my shirt off and nobody would hear it. Is that how that works?
I think so.
Does that math check out?
The direction you were going, I was like, I don't know about this, but then I liked it at the end. So no, lots of good stuff here and lots of good stuff happening with the Phoenix Suns. Since the episode we recorded 2.5 weeks ago-ish, where we were talking about, all right, the schedule gets easier. Can the guys get it together? We looked at a slate of 4 games and we said, hey, what record are you hoping for here? I think we had one maybe 4-0 prediction, a 3-1, and possibly even a 2-2 with kind of the mindset of even if it is 2-2, we're going to be all right. Suns haven't lost since, boys. Now holding the longest win streak in the NBA, thanks to some help from the Hornets knocking off the Warriors. It's a good time to be a Suns fan. Feels like we're just picking up where last regular season left off. We're going to do our normal recap of the week, but just first thing that jumps out to you, Philip, I'm going to go to you first. The Suns are now on a 9-game win streak, I believe, if I'm remembering my numbers right. What one thing about this win streak jumps out to you the most?
For the most part, the starters have been really good, which is opposite of how it was sometimes. Last season, we've alluded to it a couple times. Early in the spring last year, January, February, even into March, the bench units had such great net ratings for the Suns. But this year, it's kind of been the opposite, where, and we'll get into this a little bit later, the bench has struggled some, but CP3 and Book throughout the games, but especially late in games, have been really impressive, and they've been in control. And Suns fans who are really tapped in will know this, but the net ratings in the clutch from the starters are exceptional. So they're playing, the starters especially, playing some really good ball.
Yeah, no, the Saric effect, I think, is what many people talked about last year as the how on earth do these guys have these insane net ratings? And it really was, it was the reserves. It was the reserves of the Suns just taking care of business even on nights where the starters weren't. And yeah, it looks like the starters have figured it out, and Booker and Paul together are getting to a point where they're getting real hard to stop. We saw that in the game last night. And like I said, we'll talk about that in a second. Ryan, what's the one thing that's kind of jumped out at you over this last 9-game winning streak?
We're winning tough games. And I don't mean games against tough opponents, but we're winning those messy, ugly games that in years past the Suns would just give away to enemy teams. I'm especially looking at the T-Wolves game last night, which if anybody watched that, I apologize on the team's behalf. It was one of the ugliest 4 quarters of basketball I've seen probably in the last decade. Like, it was just not fun to watch as a fan, but we won. And we did what was necessary, especially in that 4th quarter, to bring it to a close. And that is something that the Suns haven't had the last couple of years until last year, now this year. And as cliched as it is, the good teams win bad games. And I think that's what we saw last night. We saw that even maybe a little bit against the Rockets with this kind of slower start there. But we're winning the games that we need to, no matter how we do it. And that's really encouraging to see.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to get this joke off my chest since last night that I texted you guys. Last night is a perfect example of why you should not watch college basketball. Last night's game had such big college basketball vibes until the 4th quarter that I was like, this is why I watch the NBA. And then in the 4th quarter, it was a really fun and entertaining game. The quarter score was 34-33, I think, at the end of the game. So it turned a corner and wound up being really entertaining, but yikes for the first 3 quarters.
It helps when one player scores 19 points in a quarter, but we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, I will say the one thing that jumped out at me, and it's not looking at the 9-game winning streak because I asked the question, I can change my own question. It's remembering the losses that have set up this 10-3 record. Because again, how it's worked out, the Suns were 1-3. And in those first 4 games, you had the Denver loss in game 1. That was just weird. Ended up being a 12-point loss. Then they beat the Lakers, which we thought was impressive, looking less and less impressive as time goes on. And then they got beat by Portland by 29, and it could have been more. It was just a disgusting game of basketball all around. And then the following game with 3 days rest, was the buzzer beater or the Barnser beater. Huh? Come on, guys. Give me something. Give me something here. Do you know how much Harrison Barnes would love to have something named after him? He would love it.
Brian didn't come up with that?
You thought he tweeted that?
Yeah. I thought you attributed it to him on Twitter. I was disappointed in both of you for that.
No, I don't want my name anywhere near that.
That genius only comes out of the brain of one Ethan Shutt. Thank you
all right. So, Ryan, I'm sorry for thinking so poorly of you.
Hey, apology accepted.
Listen, So after the Barnser beater, not going to drop it, Suns haven't lost since. And to Ryan's point, they've lost some messy games. They've also murdered teams that they should murder, which is good to see. Like you see the Rockets game and you don't want that to be close, and it isn't. They take care of business. And last night, man, it was a perfect example of why a good team wins bad games. It's because you've got a guy like Chris Paul on your team. That guy is going to close the game for you. Books had a couple fantastic outings too. I know he didn't put the numbers up that Chris did in the fourth quarter, but multiple games this week when Booker needed to just go off. And yes, it's a lot of mid-range twos. He hit it. I mean, he was looking Kobe-esque on some of those where it's just, it doesn't matter body angle, where he's jumping off, what foot he, like anything, it's going in. And that's really fun to watch. And to Phillips' credit, that fourth quarter last night was a whole lot of fun. So we've already talked about some stuff we love for the whole 9-game win streak. We're going to zoom in on this week in basketball with our highs, our lows, and our just so you knows. So our high for this week of basketball, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off just because I've already mentioned it. Chris Paul's 19-point fourth quarter in a close game was an absolute thing of beauty. And what frustrates me, and this is me being petty and I get it, the thing that everyone online keeps talking about and sharing is his little between the legs dribble hesitation that got Anthony Edwards moving. If I'm not mistaken, he missed the shot, which is why the video stops right after he does the move. I wish they were talking about the fact that Chris Paul just put up a 19-point fourth quarter to just take over a game. I love it. I love it. That's why he's here. This is why you have him. So nothing mind-blowing from me, but you got to give the man his roses. Incredible performance. Ryan, high for the week, brother.
I'll get to my high, but last night is why you pay Chris Paul to come in and be Chris Paul. And the troll in me so badly wanted to go pull up so many receipts from this summer when people were pitching, oh, maybe the Suns would be better off without Chris Paul. Maybe it's okay to move on from Chris Paul. You're all wrong. Last night is why. Period. That's it. Chris Paul's the man. But my high this week is actually, so going into last night's ugly game, the Suns were top 8, one of 2 teams in the top 8 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. And that is a really good sign going into the remainder of this season, especially with kind of a pretty good sample size. Now, last night adjusted those numbers a little bit. They are now up to 5th in defensive efficiency, which is great, but dropped from 8th to 12th in offensive. So, some pros and cons.
Listen, that passes the eye test, by the way, after watching last night's game.
Pros and cons of last night. Defense looks great. Offensive still needs some work. But the fact that going into that really ugly game, we were top 8 in both is exactly kind of the range you want to be in if you want to be a contender come into the season. So my high is that we're playing at a high level. Things seem to be really locking in. And props to DA for coming off a several game stint of missing and playing really well last night. Props to the young man.
32 minutes, by the way. I was actually just looking that up. Ayton came back. Well, if you give him an extra 6 seconds, he's got 33 minutes, 10 of 14, and 7 offensive rebounds in his first game back, kind of within 7 games. I think he was out for 6 of the 7, something like that. But yeah, big stuff from him last night. All right, Philip, you going to follow along with the Timberwolves game, or you got something else?
No, I got something else. I can wrap in the Timberwolves game a little bit. I've been into philosophy recently, and
I'm excited for where this is going already.
It's going to take a sharp turn.
Yes.
A great philosopher named Dennis Green once said emphatically, "They are who we thought they were." And I'm saying that in terms of the Suns. Again, specifically the starters, even more specifically, Booker and Chris Paul. End of the Kings game, CP3 sealed it. CP3 also took the heart and soul of those poor young Rockets the other night. There's the clip that went around Twitter where he deflected or stole, it felt like 3 passes on the same possession. CP3 had a great fourth quarter last night, but he and Booker were also sharing the load last night in the fourth quarter really well. And then the big shot that Booker hit to put the Suns up by 3 with, I think, right around a minute left, maybe like 45 seconds left, was a very familiar play. DA sets a high screen for CP3. He dives to the basket. What happens as he's diving? Oh, here comes Booker flashing to the top of the key to get a good open look. I was like, oh, there it is. It's familiar. It's what the Suns know. And that's really good when you're seeing, again, especially the starters playing up to their level. They're a really hard team to stay with when the starters are clicking like that.
No, 100%. And to your comment on the deflections, another stat that was going around, not for the wrong reasons, but again, I'm just being petty here. The stat was Chris Paul is the oldest player to lead the league in steals and assists at the same time. I don't care how old you are. Like, screw it. The fact that this dude is leading the league in assists and steals is amazing. And yeah, sure, bring the age into it if you want to make it, I guess, more impressive. But the fact that we're getting that level of defensive efficiency where he's getting us an extra couple of possessions, and then on top of it, he's obviously making good use out of them. That's what he was known for. I feel like his defensive presence wasn't the focal point or focus, I guess, last season. Does that seem fair, Philip? Like it wasn't the Chris Paul defense that I guess people had come to know in the past.
Even the first few games of this season, I don't know if I said it on one of our first podcasts, but I know I texted it to you guys. I was concerned because it wasn't him getting beaten off the dribble necessarily, but he just looked disengaged. Mm-hmm. And now he looks more locked in, and the Suns are reaping the benefits of that.
Yep.
I saw this really random stat, and sometimes I think these like super hyper specific stats are kind of stupid and people just put them out there because they're interesting. But to Chris Paul's credit, in the last 40 years, he is the only player with 100 points, 100 assists, 20 steals, and 5 blocks in the first 9 games of a season. That's a pretty impressive start.
Dude, I forgot about his blocks. His blocks are funny, man. They just make me smile. Doesn't matter. Campaign block is cool, but he has some jump left in him. A Chris Paul block, that's something to be happy about. But no, yeah, dude, I'm convinced those stat lines come out because of agents. I think an agent is sitting around. Oh, what was it? Oh, I can picture the graphic, and it compares like Bill Russell, Wilt, and someone else to Roy Hibbert. And it was one of those like only players with these numbers and this efficiency. And I'm just like, Roy Hibbert's agent was on one last night. Like he was typing in those stats onto Basketball Reference. He's like, I will find a way to compare my guy. But I love it. I don't know who does that, but it is wonderful. Want to take a brief moment just because we celebrate with our own. One high for the week. Ryan and I got to go witness Philip set a new half marathon PR. Want to give our boys some love there. And on top of that, your Bulls are looking smoking hot, fantastic. So Philip, aside from the whole baby, you got a lot of other good things going in your life too, man. So I just wanted to give love where love is due.
We are blessed and highly favored over here, boys.
Absolutely.
It's a whole baby.
It's last I've heard.
Nice.
I don't. Can you confirm, Philip? I'm not there for those.
I haven't laid eyes on any of the
ultrasound thingies.
Scans. Yep, right? That I didn't know the word.
That's what I'm hearing.
But Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I'll get to be there for an ultrasound, which is a big reason to give thanks.
Follow our Twitter. Follow our Twitter.
Into the Valley's going to see it first.
Into the Valley. Baby
exclusive.
Reveal.
And if you're a big Suns fan, send Suns onesies and like whatever else babies wear to my address, which we definitely won't leave in the show notes.
All right. Well, I hate leaving all this fun and love to make the turn that we must make. But with every high, we got to have some lows. I will say when the team is 9-0 in the last 9 games, the lows get harder to come by. But Philip, I know you've been watching. And I know that we've had plenty of critical text conversations about some things we're seeing. What's your low for the week?
You want another philosophical quote?
Oh, yes.
All right.
Please be from another coach.
No, it's actually from a gamer. Oh, no. A gamer once wrote a book with some really great advice.
Please be ninjas.
Get good. Yeah. Here's the deal. The Suns become maybe an unstoppable force if the wings on the bench will get good. And this is overly aggressive, but Cam and Landry and Dooley hit a shot. They are getting such good looks. Some of them, I I was going back through and watching some clips, trying to think like, is there a reason some of the shooting is so poor from the bench unit? And they're just clanking a lot of really good looks. Cam is shooting 34% on the season from the field, 32% from three. But then the crazy thing is he's 90% from the free throw line. So we know this dude can shoot. And I want specifically Cam Johnson to get his mojo back. He's had a couple good performances, but I want to see the consistency come up because, again, being really serious, if Cam is a veritable scoring threat off the bench with his occasional willingness to drive ferociously to the basket and try to put some dudes on a poster, the Suns are absolutely lethal. But when the bench isn't hitting shots, a la the Kings game a little over a week ago, the Suns become vulnerable because you see in that Kings game, the bench can't hit a shot at the start of the fourth quarter. The opposing team gets some momentum, and then that's a freight train that's hard to stop even when the starters come back in.
Yeah, it's been surprising that the Suns have won despite that, right? It breaks my heart as someone who loves Cam Johnson a whole lot. But it's just, I know, it's been tough watching that shot not go down. In terms of attempts per game, I thought this was interesting. So right now, we'll do a little trivia, unless you already cheated. And if so, that's okay. Who is leading the Suns in 3-point attempts per game right now?
Jay Crowder.
Philip?
That's my guess. Jay Crowder.
It's actually Devin Booker at 6.2 attempts per game, which I believe would be his second or maybe third highest total. I think in his second year where he basically was given the green light to do anything, I think he shot like 7.1 or 7.2. But Jay Crowder comes in at 2 at 5.5.
Close.
Then we've got Cam Johnson at 4.5, Shamet at 4.3, Bridges at 3.8, Cam Payne, at 3.8. And the reason I find this interesting, out of the four there in the middle, Cam Johnson, Shamet, Bridges, and Payne, you have two dudes shooting the ball quite well. Shamet's at 39. I believe that will go up above 40. Mikal is shooting 40% on 3.8 attempts per game, which is, I mean, goodness, if that can continue, you're in luck. But you then have on the top and bottom, Cam Johnson shooting 32% and Cam Payne shooting 33%. That's not good. That's a lot of those attempts, which we've been tracking all year. They're not getting as many attempts as other teams in the league in terms of just what the normal flow is. So everyone you have, you got to make it work. And Cam Johnson, as much as we like to beg for more minutes from him, you got to have that consistency of it going down. So anyway, I think you're spot on. I also didn't even mention Dooley because, no offense, the compliments we gave him watching the game the other night were that he didn't make a mistake. He's got a long road to hoe, if you will. But I guess small incremental steps in the right direction are a good thing.
A good week from Dooley because it wasn't awful.
Active hands on defense. There you go.
Yep.
That's what I got. Ryan, low for the week, brother.
I think probably all of us, the bench is our low point. So mine is kind of Suns adjacent. After the playoff round with the Lakers last year, I was really hoping that there was going to be this kind of revitalization of the rivalry between the Lakers and the Suns. Things got really heated. There was a lot of animosity. And so my low is that the Lakers are just really bad at basketball and it's not even fun to watch. So my hope for that rivalry is essentially in a casket in the ground. Like, LeBron isn't LeBron anymore. Anthony Davis straight up said the team sucks. They have nobody else. Like, it's just bad. And I'm really sad for basketball's sake. Like, inside, I'm like, oh, that's great. The Lakers are bad. That's great for the Suns. But for the sake of like really entertaining basketball and future matchups, I'm just kind of disappointed that they are that bad. And that's my low. It's not too serious, but like they're not good.
Ryan, I appreciate everything you bring to the table, man. It makes me smile.
I'm not super locked into Suns discourse, but I do know there's a lot of historical animosity between those two franchises. Ryan, I appreciate you giving voice to that perpetual animosity. That's at least twice this season that your low point of the week has been Lakers adjacent or directly involved with the Lakers.
I mean, my other one was fighting LeBron.
Yeah, you wanted to fight LeBron James, and now you're just trashing them as a team and saying, like I did, get better.
Here's the thing, like as a Red Sox fan, baseball is better when the Red Sox and the Yankees are both great and hate each other. That's just good for baseball.
That's true.
And that hasn't really been all that there the last couple of seasons. And I was really kind of hoping for that with maybe some Suns Lakers games this year. And honestly, I don't think it's going to be there at all at this point. They are bad.
Let me push pause on that and say, I don't think that will ever be a 1-to-1 correlation, calling the Suns Lakers the equivalent of the Yankees Red Sox. But I just want to, I just want to.
I'm not saying it's 1-to-1. I just think rivalry and heated things are good, especially after what happened with Jay and Braun and Drummond last year. That stuff is good for the game and it's good for entertainment, and that's going to be lacking this year, I think.
That's fair.
All right, my high was obviously Chris Paul related. It was fresh on my mind. I'm going to sneak a high into my low, but we'll get there.
That seems unfair.
Hey, I don't make the rules. Okay. So last year, the lack of depth at the big man position was the Achilles heel and eventually the downfall of the Suns, in my opinion. So one of the massive highs have been that this week, Frank Kaminsky and JaVale McGee each had their own pinnacle performance. Frank setting his career high against the Blazers with 31, mixed in with a whole lot of other good stuff and a few good performances. JaVale then the next night going for, I think, 18 and something stupid. DeAndre Ayton legitimately was gone, yet we still had a good big. You could not say that was even possible last year. Unfortunately, although this problem is gone, going back to Philip's point, I think there's a glaring hole in the wing position in general. And to me, it makes me think that there is something missing there that will be needed to win a championship. If you look at the reserves at wing, I don't see someone that I think can come in and either defensively step up when needed against certain people or can be that X factor type guy off the bench. I think we have some exciting guard depth, just in terms of what some of them can do. But I definitely think that there is a big hole at the wing. I'm curious to see what the Suns will do with that. But 9-0, lows can only be so low. Philip, or just so you knows, I know you said you wanted to kick us off with an interesting one.
Yeah, so there are times in the season where games or back-to-back games are kind of snoozers. My very careful notes after watching the whole Rockets game was an absolute snoozer of a game, learned nothing except how bad the Rockets are. So a way to stay invested in the NBA season is to look for really good content. And one of my favorite forms of content is features on individual players. I think it's good to look for stories about individual players to kind of humanize them. So I want to give a shout out to the features that are being written by theringer.com. What a great website. A couple specifically, Miran Fader wrote an exceptional piece on Emmanuel Quickly, the young guard for the Knicks, with just delightful stories about his mom. It was really good. Rob Mahoney also wrote a great feature on LaMelo Ball about his relationship with his coach and how his personal relationship with his coach has led to more trust on the court. And we have a couple more that we're going to link. KOC's The Void, his YouTube series. Logan Murdoch wrote one. Jonathan Sharks published one today or yesterday. So we're going to drop those on our Twitter profile, but that's just a cool way to stay up with different people around the league and to humanize some of these guys we watch on a night in, night out basis.
Love it. Ryan, just so you know.
My just so you know is actually going to be a prediction because shooters shoot, and I feel like I've got a hot hand. The Suns will be on a 14-game win streak going into Brooklyn.
Ooh, and for those at home, that would mean so Wednesday night we have Dallas.
Sorry, 15-game because I was blocking the Spurs game. 15-game win streak going into Brooklyn on the 27th.
So you got Dallas Wednesday and Dallas Friday. Potential
both
for
without Luka potentially.
Potential for no Luka. Then you've got the redemption game against Denver, where Murray obviously still out, San Antonio, and Cleveland.
And then the Knicks.
I mean, that's possible.
Shoot.
I appreciate the shoot or shoot.
15-0 run going into Brooklyn.
I'm just pumped that a game at MSG against the Knicks is actually an exciting thing. Like, I'm pumped to watch that. And the Suns are on ESPN Wednesday and Friday. So hopefully everyone will be able to watch those. Just so you know, just to put a nice little bow on this, I am super pumped that 3 dudes in Kentucky who like watching basketball and cover a team in Phoenix, Arizona. And the only reason we're here is because I fell in love in a very normal way with Steve Nash as a youth. That we're going to be having our podcast on a Suns podcast network, working with the nation, if you will. It's awesome. So hopefully if you're watching this, you will be in the know of why we don't have our audio episode. So like I said, we got to figure out where to go to subscribe to that on the audio. I believe it'll be the Bright Side Network. You can find them on Spotify, Apple, and all that good stuff. But the YouTube channel, nothing changes, baby. We stay just as weird here. The weird doesn't go anywhere.
Let's get weird.
Exactly. Thank you. That's not going anywhere. But guys, super excited. Looking forward to the changes. I think they're all going to be good. I'm excited to seeing Ryan's prediction either be a massive success or blow up in flames. And Philip, I'll get started tonight on tweeting out those links to the story. So if you just want to text me the links to the articles you want shared, I'll get kind of a thread going on the Twitter account. And if you follow us here, hopefully you follow us on Twitter at the Valley PHX, and you can check out those stories as well. Ryan, you've been full of wonderful things this evening. I'm going to give you 15 seconds to close us out. Something for the folks at home, just to leave them with a little something to have them coming back for more.
If you haven't seen Dune yet, watch Dune. It was great. Best movie I've watched this year. Also read the book. Maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I don't know. But watch the movie. It's great. It's on HBO and in your local theater. Love you so much. I feel like I need to have a regular Ryan segment, whether it's in the middle, beginning, or end, where it is not basketball related or Suns related at all, and just Ryan's musings. Just whatever he's feeling. It makes me happy. Just stream of consciousness.
No, we can talk about books and Ethan will just sit there.
That's true.
Okay, thank you guys so much for joining the podcast today. No, that is true. Reading is really tough. But for Philip and Ryan, I am Ethan. This is Into the Valley of Phoenix Suns podcast.
And we out.